In the world of the zombie apocalypse, the survivors have made a peace treaty. Hi all. This is Jacobson and this is a brief retelling of the 13th and 14th episodes of the 3rd season of the zombie series The Walking Dead. You can see the previous episodes at the links in the video description. Thank you so much for participating and for the 1,100 subscribers. Hopefully we'll keep it up and by the next video we'll have 1,200 subscribers. Once this video gets 100 likes, I will release the next installment. Enjoy watching it. Rick enters a barn on an abandoned feed store while Daryl and Herschel stand guard outside. The governor steps out of the shadows. "We have a lot to talk about," he says. The governor removes his 9mm Beretta 92SB nickel pistol and sits at a table, inviting Rick to do the same. Rick holsters his .357 Colt Python revolver, but stays standing. Taped under the table on the governor's side is a Glock pistol. Milton, Andrea and Martinez arrive. Andrea realizes the meeting has started without her. She strides inside and tries to mediate, but Rick and the governor ignore her. "I heard about the raids, the heads, Maggie," Rick says, glaring at the governor. Outside, Milton introduces himself as the governor's advisor. Daryl and Martinez eye each other aggressively. At the prison, Glenn gives orders to fortify their position. Merle suggests they ambush the governor, but Glenn shuts it down, not wanting to risk putting Rick, Daryl and Herschel in the crossfire. Back at the barn, Rick hands the governor a map. Woodbury takes west of the river, prison takes east, he proposes. The governor laughs at Rick's proposal and demands his surrender. Andrea tries to calm them down but the governor orders her out, to which Rick agrees they need to speak in private. Rick challenges the governor's leadership. "You're the town drunk who knocked over my fence and ripped up my yard," he says. The governor asks if Rick ever misjudged someone, referencing Judith's unknown paternity and accusing Rick of failing to see the devil beside you. Rick replies, "I see him, all right," referring to the governor. Outside, Milton scribbles in a notebook, explaining he's making a record of events post-apocalypse. A small group of walkers approaches. Daryl, Andrea and Martinez take turns killing them, competing in their combat skills. Afterwards Daryl and Martinez share cigarettes taken from a walker's pocket. Martinez calls the governor's meeting a joke. "They'll do their little dance," he says, "but eventually they'll give the word." Milton and Herschel bond as well, as Milton questions Herschel about how he staved off walker infection by amputating his leg. Meanwhile, the governor explains that he'll look weak if he leaves Rick's group alone. "That's your problem," Rick says. The governor then shares a story about the day his wife died in a car crash. She had left a message on his voicemail asking him to call her back. "I sat there clutching that phone thinking, what did she want?" the governor says, smirking as Rick becomes visibly rattled. At the prison, Merle packs a duffel bag full of guns and announces his plan to kill the governor. "This guy cops a feel of your woman and you pussy out like this?" Merle asks when Glenn tries to stop him. The two brawl, in which Maggie and Michonne intervene, while Beth ends the fight by firing a single shot from a .38 Colt Detective Special revolver into the ceiling, without saying a word. Andrea privately asks Herschel what the governor did to Maggie. "He's a sick man," Herschel replies. Andrea despairs and says she can't go back to Woodbury. Herschel agrees that she belongs at the prison. "But if you join us, it's settled," he warns. The governor tells Rick that between the size of his army and the combat readiness of Rick's group, the fight between Woodbury and the prison will come down to the last man. Then he offers Rick a deal. "I want Michonne," he says as he shows his damaged eye to Rick. "Turn her over and this all goes away." At the prison, Merle tries to enlist Michonne on his assassination mission. Michonne hears him out but declines. Maggie joins Glenn on the loading dock. He apologizes for his recent behavior, and they abandon their guard post to have sex. Meanwhile, Rick asks the governor why he'd waste time on a personal vendetta, then wonders if he can even trust the governor to honor his end of the deal. The governor gives Rick 2 days to decide. Then the governor, Milton, and Martinez get in their truck to leave. Andrea joins them. Back in Woodbury, The governor gives instructions to Martinez to surround the feed store and kill everyone except Michonne when the time comes. What about the deal? Milton asks. We're going to have to eliminate Rick sooner or later, the governor reasons. No way we can all live side by side. Rick's group returns to the prison, where Rick briefs everyone. He wants us dead, for what we did to Woodbury, he says. We're going to war. Rick privately tells Herschel about the governor's offer for Rick to hand over Michonne, explaining he lied to the others so they'd be scared enough to accept it. She's earned her place, Herschel says of Michonne. Rick asks if Herschel would sacrifice his daughter's lives for Michonne's. Why are you telling me? Herschel asks. Because I'm hoping you can talk me out of it, Rick replies. In present-day Woodbury, the governor bolts the pet's chains to a pair of steel posts in the interrogation room. He smiles to himself as he tests their reach. Meanwhile, Andrea and Milton watch as Martinez loads a stockpile of guns onto a truck. I thought there was a deal on the table, Andrea says. I'm sure it's just a precaution, Milton replies. Back in the interrogation room, the governor lays out implements of torture on a table, beside an old dental exam chair. Milton urges him to reconsider his plans for Michonne, but the governor insists on avenging Penny. It's all that matters, says the governor. Later, Milton divulges to Andrea that the governor will kill everyone at the prison whether or not he gets Michonne. He takes Andrea to the second level of the interrogation building and shows her the governor's torture chamber through a louvered opening in the wall. The governor then enters the chamber. Andrea aims her gun at him, but Milton wrenches it away. I knew Philip before he became the governor, Milton says later. That man still exists. Andrea declares she's leaving to warn Rick. Martinez stops Andrea on the street, and tells her to relinquish her gun, for the governor's orders. The governor approaches, and explains that he wants to protect Andrea from the violence. He asks her to accompany him to the rendezvous with Rick the next day, and she agrees. Afterward, Andrea approaches Tyrese and Sasha as they're guarding the wall. She attempts to trick them into leaving their post, but they refuse. Andrea then confesses that she's leaving Woodbury. The governor is not what he seems to be, she warns before fleeing. The governor interrogates Tyrese and Sasha about Andrea's escape. This isn't a prison camp, is it? Tyrese asks. The governor reassures them, saying he's merely concerned for Andrea's safety. After the meeting, Milton implores the governor to let Andrea go. The governor realizes that Milton disclosed the ambush plan to Andrea, and slams Milton against a wall. Meanwhile, Andrea sprints down the road to the prison. Back in Woodbury, Alan yells at Tyrese for jeopardizing their standing with the governor. They argue over the past. Alan blames Tyrese for emasculating him in front of his family. Martinez rounds them up for a task. Andrea ducks into the forest as the governor's truck approaches. While she hides, a group of walkers attack, but she manages to kill them with her knife. Martinez brings Tyrese's group to the walker pit and asks for help rounding up the dead. Tyrese refuses to participate in a plan that involves feeding people to biters. He offers to leave Woodbury, but Alan intervenes and they fight. He claims that Tyrese always made him look weak, in front of his wife, Donna, and son, Ben. They get into a brawl. Ben tries to stop him, but Tyrese is able to easily pin him to the ground and hold Alan over the walker pit. Alan yells, "Come on. Do it," and with Sasha's pleas, Tyrese pulls him away from the walkers. Meanwhile, the governor tracks down Andrea in his truck and chases her across a field. She flees to an abandoned warehouse. The governor finds the warehouse and stalks Andrea inside. "Come back to Woodbury," he says. "We need you." When Andrea does not agree to go back, the governor smashes the windows with a shovel and glass is on the ground everywhere. Eventually, he corners her at the door to a stairwell. She opens the door and slips behind it, releasing a herd of walkers on the governor. She escapes as the governor's screams echo behind her. In the middle of the night, an unknown person douses the pit walkers in gasoline and lights them on fire. Andrea reaches the prison perimeter and waves to the guard tower. Rick sees them in the corner of his eye, but the governor tackles Andrea to the ground, putting his hand over her mouth to silence her. When Rick looks through his scope, they are already out of sight. The next morning, Shumpert arrives at the pit and finds the scorched walkers. The governor returns to Woodbury in his truck and tells Martinez that Andrea is still on the loose. Martinez reports on the burned walkers, and his suspicion that Tyrese is responsible. The governor tells Tyrese and Sasha that the pit walkers were just a scare tactic and were never intended to kill people. Tyrese apologizes for being difficult. The governor asks where Tyrese found the gasoline. Come again? Tyrese asks, confused. The governor tells them to forget about it. Later, the governor runs into Milton on the street. It's a real shame about the pits, says Milton. I hope you find out who did it. Already have, the governor replies, eyeing Milton. Meanwhile, in the governor's torture chamber, a gagged and bound Andrea sits strapped to the dentist chair, the pet walker's chains dangling behind her. The end of the 13th and 14th series. As soon as this video gets 100 likes and 20 comments, I will release the sequel.